What did you say your name was again?
I didn't.
No, I guess you didn't at that, did you?
Howdy Gang! It's your old Uncle Todd here, along with his partner, Sonny. And once again, we are venturing into the old Weird West. But unlike the films we did the previous two times, this one has a really creepy atmosphere and might even actually be supernatural. There's a little ambiguity in it, but we'll get to that in due time. The film is High Plains Drifter, starring and directed by Clint Eastwood. This was his second directing job, the first being Play Misty for Me, which was a more of a thriller. This was his first directing of a Western, although he'd had plenty of experience in Westerns by this point. He would only direct 3 more after this. He would direct The Outlaw Josie Wales, Pale Rider, which is sort of a reworking of this film, and of course his magnum opus, Unforgiven, one of the greatest Westerns of all time. Sits right up there with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance and High Noon. Unfortunately, this film was also the one that killed any notion of Eastwood and John Wayne doing a film together. Eastwood, of course, was a big fan of John Wayne. Anyone that loves Western is a big fan of John Wayne. He grew up watching his films, and he wrote him a letter after this film came out, suggesting they try and do a film together. Well, Wayne went and saw High Plains Drifter, and it was not his kind of Western. He hated the revisionist Westerns that became popular with the Italian spaghetti Westerns coming in. And, for him, Wayne was always you're a good guy or you're a bad guy. That's how he played them, and that's how he did them. And he wrote a pretty scathing reply to Eastwood, who did not say anything in return, very intelligently. And so it never came to pass. The only way I could see the two of them working together if Wayne is the hero and Eastwood's the villain, but because their personalities on screen are so opposed that I don't see they could work as partners. Anyway, we open this film with a very, very creepy opening of Eastwood coming out of the desert and into a town. Doesn't that just give you the chills? Did he come out of nothing? Or was it just the heat waves blocking view of him until he got closer? But then there's that eerie soundtrack that comes up. Anyway, he rides into the town of Lago. No S. And everyone is suspicious of him. They don't like the look of him. And they're all a little afraid. But he goes to the local bar, saloon, gets beer and a bottle, and then 3 guys insult him. They want to take him on. but he's not interested.
Life here is a little too quick for him. Maybe you think you're fast enough to keep up with us, huh? A lot faster than you'll ever live to be.
Well, they don't like that at all. And when he goes over to the local barbershop, where he pays for a shave and a bath, they go over to have some more bullying. Bad idea. So arrogant. Why wouldn't he have had his gun out and in his lap? Someone he doesn't know is got a straight razor on his neck. You'd only be smart. Well, these guys didn't exactly look smart. They just looked like bullies. Well, since he can't get the shave, he takes his bottle and starts walking along. And runs into the town's local, let's be nice and just say party girl, who accosts him, and they have a rather heated exchange.
Finished with you yet? You know, at a distance, you'd almost pass for a man. But you're certainly a disappointment up close, aren't you?
Your feet, ma'am, are almost as big as your mouth.
You know what? A bottle of whiskey for courage and the manners of a goat.
Well, that's just a little too much for our, well, I wouldn't call him a hero, our stranger in town. And he grabs her, drags her into the barn for, No, not this time. One, we already did that joke last week. And two, this is not a scene where that is funny. He basically forces himself on her, and he films it all. Now, admittedly, Eastwood said down the road years later, he deeply regretted filming that, and if he'd had to do it over, he would have cut that part out. But even worse, because she is a loose woman, they're kind of showing her at the end enjoying it. Moving on. The stranger then goes to the hotel in town, gets a room, not registering because every time someone asks him, he just stares at him. And has an odd dream. The next morning, he gets up from his nightmare of being whipped to death by three men, goes and looks at himself in the mirror, almost as if he's never seen his face before. Odd. Well, he goes back to the barbershop, wanting to know if he can still get his bath. Meanwhile, the town council are meeting. It is headed up by the owner of the local mine. I should say the two owners of the local mine. And they're a little upset. You see, there are these three men getting out of prison that day. And they know they're going to come here for revenge. And the three men that the stranger killed were supposed to be there to take them out when they came in. Now what are they going to do? Well, he has a pretty good shot. So, the sheriff goes to feel him out about a few things.
What you're trying to say is there's no charge, right? Well, forgive and forget, you know. That's our motto.
Well, unfortunately, before he can actually even broach the subject of what he actually came to talk about, Callie storms in.
You dirty bastard! I'll kill you!
How did she miss him at that range? Well, can't ponder that now, because now we have to experience the cringiest joke I think's ever been made.
What do it took us so long to get mad?
Because maybe you didn't go back for more.
Ooh. Although, in all fairness, when I saw this, when I was about 13 and it was playing on TV, I laughed myself silly all during the commercial break because I thought it was so funny then. But we tend to get wiser as we get older. Hopefully. Well, Callie goes to Morgan, her paramour, and he's very unsympathetic. This is something that will kind of dog her throughout the rest of the film. Nobody really cares about her, sadly. Poor thing. Well, the sheriff then goes to the stranger as he's having breakfast, and he lays out what it is they want him to do. See, there's these three men. They're getting out of prison today, and he knows they're going to come back and tear the town apart, and they really need his help to stop them. Seems they had stolen some gold ingots from the mine where they worked as guards, and they say they're framed. Well, of course, the stranger gives them the other thing. Well, if you arrested them the first time, why don't you just arrest them when they come in? Well, he's not really a good sheriff. You see, when he arrested them, they were passed out drunk. He didn't even want to be sheriff. I mean, they had a marshal, but somebody whipped him to death. Eastwood is still not interested. Well, that is until they give him an interesting proposition.
Look, what if we offered you anything you want?
Anything?
Oh, they're going to regret that one. First, he does what they expected. He goes into each store, takes what he wants, no bill. But then when they go to the saloon, and he's getting drinks for everyone, and the bar owner / bartender is a little upset about he didn't realize when they agreed to this that it meant free whiskey. The sheriff kind of takes a little bit too much enjoyment out of the predicament.
Well, everybody's got to put something in the kitty, right?
Right. About time this town had a new sheriff.
Oh, but it doesn't end there. The mayor's not much brighter than the sheriff, apparently.
I'm sorry.
Why, Sam, you look so comical when he put your badge on the run.
I'm not a runt anymore. I'm the sheriff.
And the mayor.
I'm the mayor.
Well, the only thing now Mordecai needs is a gun, since he's the sheriff and mayor. And they try to give him, one of those more his size. Nope, he wants a real gun. And then the stranger informs all the townspeople that they are now part of the militia that he's putting together for an ambush. Out at the prison, which is some distance, the three Carlin brothers are getting released. And they're getting some disappointing news of their own.
Don't worry. They loaded.
What about our horses? We had 3 good animals.
We think you've been eating the last 6 months.
Well, they probably weren't eating horse meat. As one of the Carlins suggests, he probably sold the horses. Darn it all. So, they're hoofing until they can come upon someone that's got a horse. Well, the stranger gets the militia together and they do a dry run where they got 3 dummies in a wagon and they're riding it around town, and everybody on the roof is firing haphazardly. None of them can shoot for worth of anything. And then when one of the miners, who's been coerced by Callie, tries to threaten to, or maybe not threaten, attempt to kill the stranger, he's had enough of everything.
No, you're gonna look awfully silly with that knife sticking up your ass. You still here? No.
You still here? While that's been going on, the Carlins come upon 3 men, and they gun them down. And then the main Carlin brother swipes one of the guy's clothes because he thinks they're pretty fancy. I guess he don't mind blood and bullet holes in the back then. Anyway, back in Lego, why did you switch hats? Oh, you wanted to show your solidarity with the workmen. Okay. The stranger goes to some, I assume they're to be Mexican, workers with a request.
You make some tables, big ones that a lot of people could sit?
Like for a church picnic?
Exactly.
Well, you could use sawhorses and 1x12s.
Do you have them ready for me by tomorrow morning?
If we have the lumber.
You'll have the lumber.
Where does he get the lumber? He has them tear down the barn that belongs to the hotel owner. He's not too pleased. He's even less pleased when the stranger makes 2 more demands. 1, he needs sheets. Lots of sheets. And 2, he wants everybody else out of that hotel. Also, he's gone to the market store and commandeered all their red paint. Gallons of red paint. Well, Morgan is not too thrilled with this. All these things happening. Maybe this guy isn't worth it. Maybe the Carlins won't even show up. Well, Drake, his partner, says, but what if they do? Look, everything's fine. Just don't worry about it. When it's over, well, maybe they won't have the stranger to worry about either. But until then, They just got to go along. Morgan doesn't look too convinced. Well, that evening, everybody is kicked out of the hotel. Where are they going to go?
Are all brothers in the eyes of God.
All these people, are they your sisters and brothers?
They most certainly are.
And you won't mind if they come over and stay at your place, will you?
Well, being he's a man of God, he agrees they can all stay at the church for only a nominal fee above what they were paying for the hotel. Meanwhile, the hotel owner, the ex-mayor, and Morgan, they're all having an argument about this just going too far when Mordecai sticks his nose in and he gets chased under the sidewalk, and with the admonition that he won't be here forever. And here we get Mordecai's flashback to the killing of the marshal. Only there's two very interesting things that come about from it.
Where do you think you're going?
Let go of me! You gotta stop this! Let go of me!
Yep. The only one that tried to stop it was Mrs. Belding, the wife of the hotel owner. And after they leave, the only one to actually mourn the dead marshal was Mordecai. And I know what you're saying, well, why didn't he try to stop it? He's like 3'4". Don't be ridiculous. Oh, one other thing is revealed during that flashback. Why, if this was a film about witchcraft, I'd think the town had just been cursed. Well, meanwhile, the stranger has Mrs. Belding, can't believe I forgot it that quick, make up a big old dinner, and then he goes and invites Callie, and they eat dinner, and then they go back to his room, and afterwards Callie sneaks out and Morgan and some men sneak in. As they make a run for it, the stranger guns down two of them and hits Morgan, who's pretty badly wounded. And being the truly great guy he is, he runs off on a horse and leaves Callie behind to get whatever punishment she's going to get. Well, Eastwood has the townsmen get some shovels and start digging the graves. All the townsmen. Then he goes into the hotel where he's going to have to get another room.
Now, where are you gonna sleep now? Bodies everywhere. All the rooms are ruined except for our room. Oh. Wait.
You know, he almost looked charming there. Well, with Belding not protesting, the stranger drags Mrs. Belding into the back bedroom, and because this becomes somewhat consensual between the two of them, go ahead. Now, an important thing should be noted before this. Drake was wanting to make sure that the stranger didn't leave town over this. So they haggled over a bounty on the three brothers, settling on $1,000 a person. And then Belding finds that to be a little extravagant, considering all they've gone through.
$3,000? You promised that son of a bitch $3,000 after what he did to my hotel. Promising's one thing, paying's another. You may just catch a bullet.
Well, the next morning, while Miss Belding and the stranger talk, you're gonna learn about a old Western legend.
Have you ever heard the name Jim Duncan?
I've heard a lot of things. Why?
He was town marshal here. He's lying out there in an unmarked grave. They say the dead don't rest without a marker of some kind.
I have never heard that. Unmarked grave. Ghost. Wonder if that's a hint. Oh, and at the end of the scene, we get some Eastwood philosophy.
Be careful. You're a man who makes people afraid, and that's dangerous.
Well, it's what people know about themselves inside that makes them afraid.
Well, while we ponder that, stranger has gone out of town to track down Morgan. And the townsmen, who have by this point finished burying the dead and decide not to put grave markers, head back to town to start painting the entire town red. And as they head back, we, the audience, learn that before heading out in pursuit, the stranger has renamed the town. I like that long pan. You're just slowly showing you each letter. Kudos, Mr. Eastwood. Well, Belding returns to the hotel, where he admonishes his wife for sleeping with that man and probably liking it. And as they argue, she reveals she's leaving. She's had enough of this. And information comes out about why the marshal was done away with. It seems that mine that the town depends on is on government land. And the marshal, he was going to notify the government that they've got gold on government land. And, well, that would have ruined everything. So, Carlins were hired to kill the marshal, and then in payment they framed them for theft so they didn't have to pay him. Kind of a pattern with these people. Anyway, Morgan runs into the Garlands, who are breaking camp. And they're quite willing to help him, patch him up and stuff. all they need is the combination to the safe in the mine office.
I would give you the combination to the gates of hell.
Dog. Sure had a lot of blood left in him, didn't he?
I gotta admit, I appreciate them keeping that off screen, and you just hear the sounds, and you can just imagine how nasty it was. Well, a stranger comes upon them, and has a little fun taking pot shots at him and dynamiting things, just driving them crazy, and then disappears with the admonition, "Who are you?" Well, he heads back to town, tells everybody to get ready, get the banner up, "Welcome home, boys," get all the food out on the tables, and get them in up in the tops to do their ambushing. And then, when they're sighted, that they're approaching, the stranger does something very strange. If you like those reactions, wait till you see Drake's. Why, it's almost as if he knew they weren't going to pay him. Well, Carlin's right in, and it is horrifying. Men can't shoot. Those men just... And Carlins, they just run roughshod over everything, knocking the tables over, lassoing and dragging the sheriff around. And they save the worst for Drake. That was nice of him. Now they don't have to blow open the safe. Well, as night falls, we see that they've set most of the town on fire. Everyone is corralled into the saloon, and they're just having a great time intimidating them all, and slapping them around. And poor Callie tries to play up to the eldest Morgan, but it doesn't go well.
Yeah, I bet you just cried yourself to sleep every night thinking about me in that territorial prison.
I really did.
Yeah, well, I can see it all now. You lying there in Morg Allen's bed, just crying and a-humping.
Nobody believes her. Anyway, they decide they've done enough. They're going to head out. Now they got the money, and they've burned the town down and given what they think the citizens deserve, and not take Callie with them. And then something happens.
I want to know who them sons of bitches was that ambushed us. That's what I'd like to know.
So we're gonna find out right now.
He came back. While they all listen in horror as that man is whipped to death. And then the stranger kind of issues a challenge. Challenge accepted. They push all the townspeople out in front of them, but the stranger has thought of that too. Of course, those turn out to be fake. So, the two brothers start to work their way through the town, looking for this mysterious man who killed their brother. And then we're down to one. And now we get the confrontation we've been waiting all movie for.
Who are you?
Sadly, you will never know. But we're not done yet. Belding's decided he's had enough of the stranger and decides to go through with Drake's plan of getting rid of him now that everything's done. It's nice to see that Eastwood is a student of the classics and understands the concept of Chekhov's gun. If you're going to introduce a gun in the first act, that gun should be used in the third act. Well, the next morning, what's left of the townspeople are cleaning up what's left of the town. Eastwood's riding through, exchanges a hat tip and a smile with Mrs. Belding, who's loading up her wagon to leave. And he exchanges a goodbye with Mordecai, who's out carving tombstones. Interestingly, as the stranger rides away, we see whose tombstone he's carving. It was the Marshal's tombstone. What is going to happen as the stranger rides off? Ooh, he faded out again. This is a great film. The problematic things I mentioned before notwithstanding, it is very much a film about the political times of the 70s. Some can read it as about McCarthyism and the guilt people harbored about that time of people being turned in, people not saying anything. And that was one of the things that interested Eastwood in the script when he read it, or the treatment, and also the supernatural aspects, although he keeps it a little ambiguous there. Now, according to the book, the Westerns of Clint Eastwood, the original script had a scene where he was discovered to be the brother of Marshal John Duncan, and Eastwood had those excised from the finished film, although the dubbed versions that went out overseas were using the original script, so those references were left in. And I get two different stories here. One is that Eastwood always intended it to be a ghost story, and then later he insisted it wasn't a ghost story, that his character was the brother of the marshal. So he's kind of gone back and forth on that. I like to view it as a ghost story. He leaves enough clues for that, but it's just vague enough that you could, if you don't like horror films, you could say, oh, no, he's just his brother. So he kind of had it a little bit both ways. He would do the same with the reworking he would do in Pale Rider, only more so. But oh man, what a cast! I mean, as the head Carlin, we got Jeffrey Lewis, great character actor. He's actually a lot of the actors who appeared in here were Eastwood regulars. He had his own little acting troupe for his films. I mean, Jeffrey Lewis was in the Every Which Way But Loose, Any Which Way You Can. He was in Bronco Billy. He was probably one of the most prolific of Eastwood's regulars. We also had John Quaid and William O'Connell. Quaid was the one with the knife, and O'Connell was the barber. They, of course, would also go on to appear in the Every Which Way But Loose movies. And you also had Walter Barnes as the sheriff. He would also appear in Bronco Billy, and Every Which Way But Loose, he played Tank Murdoch, the man Eastwood is always constantly going to try and find to fight. We also had Richard Donner. He didn't appear in a lot of Eastwood films, but he's a character actor. He played the preacher. You've probably seen him in tons of stuff. I mostly remember him as Exeter on Mork and Mindy. Of course, Billy Curtis has Mordecai, a very, very prolific actor, character actor, bit player. He was in the original Wizard of Oz as one of the Munchkins, and just popped up in all kinds of things like Incredible Shrinking Man, 2 Jungle Jim movies, Jungle Moonman and Pygmy Island. Go figure. And and a great actor. One of his few starring roles was in Terror of Tiny Town, the all little person western made in the 30s. Has the nasty owner was Mitchell Ryan. Big heavy actor. I mean, as bad guys. I mean, he was in Lethal Weapon. He was one of the original actors on Dark Shadows. Just very, very prolific. Usually playing a bad guy, except for Dharma and Greg. Although he was kind of a bad guy there. He played Greg's father. Let's see. Had Walter Barnes. We also had John Mitchum as the warden of the territorial prison. He is the brother of Robert Mitchum, and was a bit of an Eastwood regular, as he played DiGiorgio in the Dirty Harry movies. And as for our 2 female actresses, we had Verna Bloom as Miss Belding, who is probably best remembered today as Mrs. Wormer, who has the affair with Otter in Animal House. And Mariana Hill has Cassie, who is probably best remembered for Messiah of Evil and Schizoid. Messiah of Evil is a cult classic of the zombie type horror film, and Schizoid was a slasher, where she got to share screen time with Klaus Kinski in a love scene. Things you do for money, huh? But yeah, it's a really good film. Violent for its time. That was another thing John Wayne didn't like about it. He felt the Eastwood films were much too violent. And he didn't like how cowardly all the townspeople were. But that was kind of the point. The script was done by Ernest Tidyman, who created John Shaft. wrote the Shaft novels. And he would also do a novelization of his script. Ironically, everybody thought Tidyman was black. He was a journalist. And when he won the NCAA award, everybody got shocked when he showed up to accept it, and he was white. Crazy, huh? Come to think of it, John Ball was white too, and he created Virgil Tibbs, In the Heat of the Night. But hey, that was in the 1960s and 1970s. This is probably my favorite Eastwood film. It's a good Western, and it's got just enough creepy stuff to be a good horror film. But it's subtle. And Eastwood, of course, has taken his Man with No Name character from his Italian spaghetti westerns and amped him up to 11. I don't think he's ever been nastier than this in a film. Not even in Dirty Harry. And he was plenty nasty in those. Yeah. Excellent film. Loved it. And it's one I return to time and again. I just like the atmosphere of it. Well, please hit like, share, and subscribe. And as always, stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
I'm just about done here. I never did know your name.
Yes, you do.